August the 16th. I'm continuing this round of honey pulls, hoping to bring in the rest of one yard I started on yesterday. Everything gets jumbled up and my time is not my own sometimes. It's odd stuff too. You know, when you've got a business, everybody says, well, you've got to have a website. You've got to have a website. So I put up a website, and I know a little bit about that, and started getting carding attacks where somebody somewhere is running stolen credit card numbers through my site on fake orders to see if the cards are good or not, if they work. So I'm getting thousands of these things, and the site provider, the e-com provider I'm using, has some tools to combat that, but not enough. So I was on their tech support yesterday trying to figure out how to get that stopped for good. And of course they want you to pay for an extra service. Everything's a pain. Just everything's a pain. You know, it takes time to read and learn about what you need to do to make an informed decision. I don't have that time right now. Anyway, it's going to be 94 to get today. We've got a heat advisory. Heat index is going to be well over 100. Trying to get an early start, get these 2 yards pulled in, and get the honeys to start drying down. And then in a few days, it's actually going to cool off. It'll be good bee working weather. But I got to get through the next few days. It's going to be hot. Here to pull honey out of my home yard. I think I've got 40 or 42 supers in here to get. This will take a while. We've got thunderstorms rolling in, so I don't know that I'll get this finished right now, but it shouldn't last too long. May have to sit in the truck for a while it pours, and then get out and finish in the humidity. Be good to get this off. After this yard is off, I won't have a whole lot to go, just pieces here and there, but it won't be a major chunk of work like this will be. I've got 1 yard in the honey house already with 35 supers or something, so pulling these 42 in, I'm gonna have over 70 to get. It's starting to rain. So I have 70 or so to get extracted in the next 3 or 4 days. That'll keep me pretty busy. One really useful tip for pulling honey is to keep it covered while you're working. So when I pull a super off, I come and set it on this, which I have not been doing this year yet, but there's a reason for this. You've got to cover the top and the bottom, because on a wood deck, the bees will actually come through the gaps in the boards and go through the bottom of the super, so you'll get robbing started before you can get done with the yard. But if you cover the bottom and then put a lid over each box when you set it down, it's a little bit more work to do it that way, because you've got to take those lids off and put a super down and put the lid back on, but it dramatically cuts down on the robbing. And with the skateboards, there's not a lot of bees in the supers anyway, so you just don't have a lot of exposed honey at any given time. There's the rain. This is a cypress bottom board. It's only 5 years old. It's rotted enough in that back corner that the bees are using it as a rear entrance. That was painted with a base coat of oil and 2 coats of the top quality latex on top of that, latex enamel. 5 years and it's rotted. I'm hoping I'll get more usage out of, or more years out of wax dipped equipment. So I'd say I'm more than halfway through. I've got like one bee sniffing around over here. That's the value of covering them top and bottom. I'm actually using double screen boards for the bottoms there, but they're turned upside down, so there's no entrance into those boxes. Keep them covered, and it really does help prevent robbing. Once the robbing gets going, it can be tough to control. I have just left a yard until the next day when the bees get to snooping around too much, especially if I've got nukes in the same yard as my production colonies. They can rob some out pretty quick. Actually, it hasn't rained much. I've worked through it. Thunder, I hear thunder in the distance, but I don't think it's gonna hit us. It's nice though. We've got a breeze and it's kind of cloudy, so I'm glad I've been working through it. It's gonna be miserable this afternoon. Pretty nice haircut for this yard. Looks a lot better, a lot more manageable. Get them ready for winter now. A lot of work to go, but we're working on next year now. So I had a weak hive there. I've actually had a weak hive, 2 weak hives next to each other. That one went queenless. I've just combined it with this one. So I'm making 1 hive out of 2. This is mostly to preserve the equipment. I'm not 100% sure this is a strong queen in here. She may have just gotten a slow start, but she might also be weak. But this will preserve equipment, give them 2 gallons of feed. Hopefully they will be happy, merge well, start drawing some foundations out and get heavy enough to make it through winter. We'll see. That's gonna leave 3 holes in this yard of 24 now, which is about average going into winter. It's about 12 or 15% turnover. So hopefully it won't be a whole lot more than that, but I may end up with 4 or 5 holes. So we're halfway through this yard, maybe a little more, and I have not been feeding this yard as much as the other ones, my other nuke yards, and I think that was a mistake. This yard was doing really well. Most of the hives were completely drawn out, but they are thin. They are very light. So they've hit dearth. There's nothing for them to bring in, and they've been eating up what stores they had, and I think they've started going backwards because of that. So I'm gonna have to be a lot more diligent in getting out here probably twice a week for the next little bit and giving them a gallon each time. I'm just about out of feeders. I can give some hives two feeders to give them 2 gallons, but not all of them. I do have some bucket feeders, but not all of my lids are set up for that. And my feeding is not what it will be next year. I'll make improvements for next year, but I'm not there right now, and I don't have the ability to get there in the time that I've got. So I just have to come out here a couple times a week and make sure they're fat. Thin hives are no good. Feeding a few more nukes in this yard. I've got some production colonies in here, but not a lot. And just came across some more VSH activity here. So there's some half-eaten larvae down in there. The bees are chewing that down and getting it ejected from the colony. And there's some uncap recap behavior there. They've opened this one up. Might be some more over here, I'm not for sure. A lot of times when you see a lot of this in one area, there's a mite in here somewhere and they can sense it through the cappings, but they don't know exactly where it is. So they open them all up, start pulling them out, checking it. It's good to see. So we're feeding this yard, and the last 2 colonies have been consistent. I had a feeder in the second box and a feeder in the third, and they've drawn out the top box and they're getting heavy. So I'm pulling feeders out of the second, going to just 1 feeder, and dropping in 2 more frames in the center. These are good acorn double waxed frames, so the bees like drawing those. and I'll give them another gallon. That should get them good and started on those, and maybe one more gallon after that, and they'll be ready for winter. The last 2 hives have been pretty heavy, so this is finishing up the nukes for the year. 3 drawn out mediums and heavy for winter. That's my goal with them. August 21st, we've had a cool front move through. It's actually really nice this morning, 64 degrees. So I wanted to address a couple of comments that I've had. Somebody said in a recent video, I'd hate to have your feed bill. I've been feeding a lot of sugar syrup, and I agree. I'd hate to have my feed bill too, especially right now. The reason for that is we didn't have a real good nectar flow this year, and I came into spring with around 100 production colonies, mature hives that were 3 mediums size, and I grew to right now I've got about 230. And last year I made a mistake. I made some later splits, and I didn't have time to get those hives built up big enough to really be useful this spring. So I wintered some double mediums and even some single mediums last year. Most of my winter loss was in those single mediums when we hit -10 Fahrenheit. I lost like 6 of 10 or something, something like that. So this year I made splits earlier, and I have really, really been focused on getting them to draw out as much comb as possible, get them big and healthy and heavy for winter. So I've been pouring the feed to them all summer. We've had bad nectar flow this year. I wouldn't say bad. The spring was okay. I made a decent honey crop, but we've not had enough flow for these nukes to really prosper. And we're in a dearth now. So I am trying to strike while the iron is hot. We're at August 21st. In September in Tennessee, it is really, really difficult to get hives to draw out comb, to draw foundations. It's really difficult. In fact, I'd say I've got 1 to 2 more weeks of progress. And after that, I may as well take the foundations out and replace them with drawn comb that I've extracted. And I'll probably do that. I try to separate my brood comb as it comes out of the extractor and save those boxes, especially if they've got pollen in them, because that stuff will mold over winter. And I can take that comb and pull foundations out and drop the drawn comb in. The bees will pick wax off of the foundations over wintertime, and that really just creates a problem. It's got to be re-waxed after that. They won't draw it. So I've got a narrow window here where I could feel like I can continue to make progress, and then after that, it's coming to an end. Now, all this means that my operating costs right now are probably at the highest point of the year. I'm feeding $1,500 of sugar like every 4 weeks right now. And I've got bottles and labels and all the regular stuff on top of that. So that creates a cash flow issue. It's painful, but it is what it is. You just have to get through it. I have to buckle up and get through it. Now, I want to talk about workload. Somebody asked me a while ago, it's been a while, I've been thinking about this in the back of my mind. They'd like to hear something about what my long-term plans are as far as operational size and capacity and all that. I don't really have a number in mind. I have a lifestyle in mind. Right now, this year, my operation is still immature. I've got a lot of facility that I still need to build, and just efficiency that I can build into my operation with equipment and buildings and better feed systems and all of this, and as well as hives that are drawn out and doing well. It's not just a hive count thing, it's the ability to take care of those hives. So this week, this is Wednesday, I've got honey supers in the honey house that I really need to be extracting. So Monday, I spent all day bottling honey to drive around all day yesterday delivering honey and picking up 1,000 pounds of sugar and then getting the kids and doing homework and all of that stuff. So today, when I should be extracting honey, I'm feeding hives that are not going to make any more progress if I don't feed them like right now. I might get a little bit more progress out of them if I can feed them right now. This window's closing. So it's going to be this afternoon and tomorrow before I can extract. My bottling tank is empty. I've got to extract honey to fill the bottling tank up, and I've got to deliver more honey on Friday. I'm having trouble managing everything right now. I feel like a one-legged man in a butt-kicking contest. And this is with, 230 or so. With more facility, I think I can get up to about 300, maybe 350. But I'm not going to try to go to 500 by myself with the life that I've got right now and the assets that I've got. I don't think I can handle it. Things will start slipping by the wayside, and I don't want to do that. I'd rather not do something than do it halfway. So I think next year, I may try to get up to 300. I'm actually more focused on some other things. I want to sell nukes next year, and I want to start selling queens. So that means I need a bunch of mating nukes set up in mating yards that I can maintain and, make it relatively easy to do that. I've got to work on that over the winter. There's an infrastructure tail that goes along with all of these things. It's great to say, well, I want to sell nukes. Well, how are you going to do that? It's great to say I want to sell queens. Well, selling 10 queens is a lot different from selling 100, and selling 100 is a lot different from selling 1,000. There's an infrastructure tail. So I'm probably more focused on those things than I am a hive count for next year. It wouldn't hurt my feelings to not grow a ton next year and to have a really good reserve yard full of bees that are, young nukes that are healthy, and not have to feed the snot out of those nukes, be able to keep them small and not feel bad about it, because I'm going to use them to re-queen colonies that go queenless or whatever. I actually have a real nuke battery instead of trying to get the absolute most out of everything that I can make to grow my operation and mature it so that next year will be better than this year from a revenue standpoint. And that's where I'm at. I'm in growth mode. It's like growth stocks and income stocks. Big mature companies pay dividends. That's an income stock. Stocks that are growing, they don't make money, but they're growing. And that's where I'm at right now. I'm reinvesting everything I can back into the business to try to grow my revenue next year.